to get all mic'd up and get our stuff ready and get going. We are with Chad Lewis and Ronney Jenkins from that 1996 Cotton Bowl team, arguably the best team in BYU history. How would you guys argue that you were the best team in BYU history? Chad, we'll start with you.
We were a tough team. No, we didn't go undefeated, so I'll always give the '84 team credit for being the best team because they did it. They went undefeated. But our team was top to bottom, side to side, pound for pound. We were a tough team. We were talented at every position. We had guys that wanted to compete. So Ronney came in as a freshman in '96 and blew the doors off of the whole place. And so when you have a good team, it's very talented, and then you add people like Ronney with those kind of skills, his speed, his vision, his practice ability. Now we got a really good team. So that was a fun year.
Ronney, what would you argue?
I mean, I would have to agree with Chad. It's hard to go against a team that went undefeated, but top to bottom, I mean, our tight ends were the best in the country. We had a really good quarterback, Steve Sarkisian. Our corners were awesome. I mean, our running backs, it was three of us. I was the youngest one, Brian McKenzie and Mark Atawaya. We were good. I mean, it's hard to, you know, it's always, you always say what we could have did, but it's hard to go against an undefeated team, but I would pick our team over any team.
Guys, it's been 20 years.
Kind of weird.
20 years since you guys were on that team. To put things in perspective a little bit, the number one song in 1996 was the Macarena. Was that one of your guys' jams? Were you doing the Macarena?
You know, the first time Steve Young had some of us go down to Lake Powell, and I remember waking up to the Macarena. And when I hear the Macarena, I think Steve Young, Lake Powell, that whole group just jamming, you know. But it's weird that it's been 20 years.
Yeah. Ronney,
crazy.
What was your go-to jam in 1996?
You know what? At that time, fresh out of high school, you know, I was into hip hop, rap, so probably was various artists, but that song right there wasn't one of them. I heard it a lot, obviously, but
the Macarena wasn't on your.
Nah.
What did you have? Did you guys have CD players?
Man, we had
Cassette
8 tracks.
Tapes? 8 tracks. Okay, I didn't know when that transition
that was
took
CDs.
place.
It was CDs.
Okay. Come on, Chad. That's awesome. So, Chad, you were in the NFL for a while, now working at BYU as an associate athletic director. Update us and update the fans a little bit on your life, your family, and what's going on.
Married to Michelle, who is an All-American volleyball player here. We have 7 kids. Our oldest is 6'4". She plays volleyball on the team here. I work as the associate athletic director for development, which means I'm the director of the fundraising team for the athletic department. So work with Robbie Bosco, Lee Johnson, great team. It is so fun for me to be back here. I didn't want to come back to BYU and work because I love BYU. I didn't want BYU to become a job. But since being here, Tom Homo is the one that said, hey, we need you, come back. And since being here, I love it. I run to my office every morning because I love it. So it's cool to be here. And to have Ronney and the rest of the 96 team come back here, this is a dream come true.
And not a lot of people could say that about their job, so
yeah,
that's
true.
A blessing for you. Ronney, you were the WAC Freshman of the Year. You were in the NFL as a successful kickoff returner for a while, in the CFL for a bit. And what are you up to now?
Right now, I do a lot of training with kids, athletes in my area. So I have a small space where we just train athletes, a bunch of other guys from my area that made it to the pros. We all just came together and we lease a spot and we just train kids from Pop Warner to high school to college and just get them ready for their sport.
So you stuck around the sport too?
Yeah,
You guys can't leave.
Yeah.
You can't leave it alone.
It's hard to leave, you know. This is what I've been doing for most of my life, so
yeah.
It's hard to just go do something else that you're not accustomed to.
Right. And it's something you love.
Yeah.
Football's kind of weird because you practice as a little kid, junior high, high school, college, pros, and that's your marketable skill. That's what you know more than anything else. And then, boom, they say, okay, thanks for playing, go do something else. Yeah. You kind of look around like, what? This is what I'm good at, this is what I know, this is intuitive. And that's why so many guys go into coaching, so many guys are in training or athletic departments because that's what we know. That's how we were trained, and it's kind of interesting to be just taken to that cliff edge and then, okay, go do something else.
Right. Especially when there's so much hype around the team, so much hype around the players, and then you graduate and it's like,
See you later.
See you later.
I know, it's weird.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. So let's talk.
So when we talk to the younger guys, one of the things we say is prepare for the future, because the future is now. Education is your plan A. Get your education. Education isn't plan B. Football is great, but your education is where it's at. So one thing Vi Sickenhammer says all the time, which I love, is make football work for you. You don't work for football. Make football help you open doors and attack life. And I think that's the right mindset when it comes to football and education. Make football work for you.
Ronney, what advice would you give current players?
I would have to concur with Chad. Education is number one. You don't want to ever be in a situation where you realize that after it's over. You kind of want to take advantage of your opportunities. You get to go to college. You focus on your school and football, and let football be your outlet to get out there and make moves and market yourself and stuff like that. But education is where it's at, because after football, you got to do something. You know what I'm saying? So I would just tell any kid to focus on that and not just stay so into football. Like when I was a kid, I was just football, and kind of education was my secondary. But as I got older, I learned. So I would just preach education over anything.
Let's talk about that 1996 team for a little bit. Like Ronney said, Chad, two of the best tight ends in the nation. When you think of that 1996 year, what offensive moment sticks out to you the most?
For me, it's the first game we played Texas A&M in the Pigskin Classic. It was a preseason game here in LaVell Edwards Stadium. When Texas A&M played BYU before, they trashed us. They separated Ty Detmer's shoulders, both of them. And going into that game, like that catch right there by Keala Louis sealed the deal. It was one of the sweetest balls that Steve Sarkisian ever threw. It was against man coverage. And then wrapping up the season with this Cotton Bowl victory. That team was impressive for so many reasons, but I like that first game where we came out and we smacked Texas A&M, and then we just kept rolling through the whole season. We dropped one against Washington, which still haunts every one of us, but I love that Texas A&M game, coming out fighting, and that was a great start to that season.
Ronney, one of the biggest question marks coming into the 96 season were the running backs, and you came in as a freshman behind Brian McKenzie. What do you remember about stepping onto the field for the first time as a freshman that year?
I mean, getting here, my mindset was a little different because I was coming off of a high of, I broke a national record in high school. You know, I was getting a lot of attention. So to come here, I was hungry, came here, but it was different. You know, I never been a part of a real program, a real winning program. I never won too many games in high school. So getting here and in that first game, I thought I was ready to play, but I wasn't ready to play. You know, and I'm glad that Lavelle and Norm Chow brought me along the way they did, because that crowd and playing in front of 60, 70,000 people was just a different experience. But it was a great thing for me. I learned so much. I learned football. I learned what a team is and just a lot of things. I just learned football, and I'm glad that they brought me along the way they did.
Can I say one thing about his? He rushed in one game in high school for about 614 yards, something like that. So it was a team in one game, which is freaky. That was the national record.
Freaky.
So when he came, we were wondering, like, okay, what's he going to be like? Was he playing against chumps? The first practice that he came here, he lit practice up. His practice ability, it's hard to have great practice ability out of high school. And I would say two people in BYU history are the top shelf of practice ability players, Austin Collie and Ronney Jenkins. So his first practice, he would take a run and he would bust it for 40 or 50 yards. He would run back to the huddle and do it again for the entire practice. And I think in that first practice, he got in a fight with someone. And all of us were looking at him like,
Ronney.
okay, he's hungry. He knows how to practice. He's going to be a superstar. And I like Ronney said, Lavelle and Norm Chow brought him along the way that was comfortable for him. So they didn't say, okay, first game, Texas A&M, go, you're our guy. They let him develop, and when he came on so strong that it lifted our whole team the rest of the year.
Ronney, really fast, one last quick question from a fan wrote in. He said, you were known as the fastest guy on the team. Who gave you a run for your money? What other guy on the team gave you a run for your money?
I don't
Or
wanna-
nobody?
Well, I mean, James Dye was quick. But, at that time I was so, cocky with my speed and just, I was just so, I wasn't really thinking about that. I just felt like I was probably the fastest guy on the football field. But, whatever.
He was the fastest human in the state of Utah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've heard. I was 10 years old during that game, but I do remember watching you guys, and you were pretty incredible. Guys, thank you so much for being
thank
here.
you.
You guys are fantastic. Coming up next, we have Shay Muirbrook and Ed Lamb. If you want to join the conversation, use hashtag BYU Media Day. Stay tuned.